foremost, Figma captured everybody's attention today in the stock market. We can see right here it more than tripled in its debut after selling shares at $33 in its IPO. I know a lot of people got some shares, and obviously whenever it hit the market at 85 and even went up over $100, a lot of people were banking off of this one. So I know a lot of people out there are like, okay, let's look at Figma. What really are they, right? Figma is a powerful design tool that lets teams collaborate in real time on UI, UX, and prototyping projects. If we actually go to their website, we can see that they actually use AI to accomplish a lot of these goals. Whether you're a designer, web designer, developer, stakeholder, or etc., Figma makes it easy to create, share, and iterate all in one place. And like I said, they use AI a lot. We can see right here in the center of the screen, you can pretty much just type in something and then it will do it. Whether you want like something to scroll, and you'll see some things right here. Make my cursor reveal an image, right? So it'll just do it for you like that. There's multiple different things that you can do. This one says make an infinite canvas gallery, and then you can see in the background here, everything's kind of like infinite back there. So very interesting. You can do a lot of different things with Figma. They've been used by lots of companies like Microsoft, Netflix, New York Times, Slack, Stripe, Zoom, Airbnb, Duolingo, Dropbox, and more. So definitely a pretty insane company, I would say, right here. And as we go back to their stock, it's ticker symbol FIG, not to be confused with the popular cookie out there. Looking at it, it's up to almost 128 here in after hours. This is over 275% higher than its IPO price of $33. That is just an insane jump. If we even just go from like the low from when it started trading to the high of after hours here, that's a 50% jump just here today alone. So Figma is a very popular stock in the short term, and it is in play. But a lot of people ask, okay, what's going on with Figma? Like it's an IPO, right? I'm not used to seeing IPOs, so how can this play out? If we go to the daily chart, we go back to some of these other companies that have IPO'd in the past that might not have had the best IPOs, like let's just say Snapchat, right? We can go all the way back to 2017 whenever Snapchat IPO'd, and they actually dropped off a lot. So as we can see here, Snapchat, they IPO'd up around that $24 mark, or at least that's where they started trading, right? Over the next couple trading days, they had a lot of hype and they ended up going higher, up to around $29, almost pushing $30 there. But over the next subsequent months, they ended up falling back down. I remember at the time, Snapchat was one of the more popular IPOs, and of course, there was a lot of hype associated with it. Pretty much from the price it started trading to the low, it dropped down almost 80% there. Now, I know that was like a year and a half, 2 years later. Even within just a few months, the stock fell down over 50%. So be a little careful. I always like to go back and look at some of these other IPOs. Another one is Uber. If we go to Uber on the daily chart, go back to 2019 whenever they IPO'd, that's like the same story. They had a lot of short-term hype. The stock did move and it was in play for a few days, but ultimately it ended up falling down over 38% within a few months and 66% all the way down there at the low. So, you got to take these IPOs with a grain of salt. They're not all going to be perfect, but in the short term, they have been. If we look at some IPOs like CRCL, one of the more popular IPOs in the short term, this one has actually ran up over 330% since hitting the market. CoreWeave itself ran up 370%, but it did have a choppier road, at least at the beginning there, after the initial first few days. But I like to go back and look at these and show you guys maybe some of the other IPO moves from the past, just so you can have a bit of an idea, and also maybe look at FIG with a grain of salt, right? It's very easy to get caught in the hype and to just try to follow the train, and hey, while it's there, that could be a possibility, but just be careful if it does start to turn over like what we saw with Snapchat or Uber, then just obviously be aware and be ready for the possibility there. Now, Figma, obviously, we showed that they do a lot of stuff with like web design, maybe designing pictures, photos, you name it, right? They do a lot of different things out there, even like coding. Like if we scroll down here, there's lots of stuff with coding and like web design and things of that nature. So whenever I think of this, a lot of people are asking, okay, is Adobe going to be okay right now? And honestly, Adobe's already been under a lot of fire. We can see over the past few years, ever since Adobe peaked out in 2021, it has done nothing but just chop around or fall. Now, granted, there's been some good opportunities there, but from that high, it's down 48%, and from the recent peak, it's down 44%. I personally think Adobe already has a lot of competition, and Adobe uses AI kind of like Figma. They have something called Adobe Firefly, but then again, it might not be as popular as other AI products. But I wanted to bring this up because Adobe actually did start breaking a very key support here in the short term, right around $360. And while there's opportunity playing Figma, with increased competition, there could be opportunities possibly playing Adobe as well. But kind of switching topics and overall market today, because I know a lot of people were very taken aback at the SPY and the way in which it's falling. Look at the daily chart, actually. SPY has posted 4 red candles in a row. Now, it doesn't mean all these days were necessarily terrible, right? We did have some upside action towards the end of the day yesterday and some positivity with those earnings. And we have some big earnings tonight that we're definitely going to go over as well. But the SPY really pulled back here. And a lot of people are kind of scratching their heads and going, okay, after that big earnings run yesterday, why did the SPY pull back and break all of these key short-term supports? And really, I think that there's a combination of things going on. Number one, the market's very overextended, right? Number two, we're just in a time of the year where the market's historically pretty weak. This is the last day of July. Tomorrow's going to be August 1st. We can see, looking at the data right here, that August 1st is not really the best, or the first half of August, I should say, is not the best first half out of any month out there. It's definitely towards the bottom of the list here. So that's a worrying sign. Number two, I know we looked at this data as well. Whenever you're looking at the second term of a president in a post-election year, there has been negative returns in August 100% of the time since 1950. I think that's a pretty striking statistic, and I'll definitely be watching this August very carefully. And then number three, we even have VIX seasonality. And I know that we've looked at this a lot in the short term, but I think it's something to look at and to definitely take to heart, because even last August, we saw a pretty big dip out of the SPY, albeit, there was a great uptrend mixed in. Let's actually go to the SPY. Let's go to the daily chart here and go back to August of last year, because I know that it was something that definitely threw traders off for a little while, but then got that big V-shaped recovery. And right here is that August dip. Now, there was a dip like towards the end of July too, which bled over into the beginning of August, but nonetheless, again, there was that volatility there, like right around the beginning of August. So just be a little aware. The first half of August is definitely not one of the best first halves out there. And there's a lot of data supporting, let's say, an increase in volatility in the short term. That doesn't necessarily mean the SPY has to crash and burn. But then again, we always like to look at everything out there so that you guys are aware. I personally wish that the bull trend would continue, but hey, we have to adapt or die, right? But getting a little further into the SPY, I know it broke down through some key levels today. The low of day from yesterday was right around 631.50, and there are some key supports coming up. If we go to the hourly chart, which we kind of have to do to, see far enough back on the SPY right now, that 631 mark is pretty crucial. There's been a few bounces right around there. So if the SPY really gives out at this range tomorrow, I'm going to